What up, my ninjas? This is Strident, and I am back with a review. I finally watched the entire film of Tekken Blood Vengeance, and I have to say, overall, I was pleased. It was like light years better than that bullshit movie, the live action movie. I did only get to see the English dub version, which is a no-no in my opinion. You should always watch foreign films in the original language with subtitles. So I might have better things to say once I see it in Japanese. But right now, I'm gonna give you my thoughts and kind of a review on what I think of the version that I did see, which was the English dub version. So Tekken Blood Vengeance is overall a an attempt to tell a story within the Tekken universe and not necessarily focus on every single character. The story focuses it. Well, the story is told from Ling Xiaoyu's perspective, and she is the main protagonist. She's pretty much tasked by Anna Williams, working with Kazuya and G Corporation, to find a fellow student at her school named Shin Kamiya. Shin Kamiya has ties to the Mishimas, and that's kind of what you're given in the beginning. There's little hints that are dropped till you find out that he is part of an experiment using Kazuya's blood and students from Mishima Polytechnical School, and he once went to the same, he once was involved with, he was friends with Jin. You find out through a series of revelations and the introduction of Alyssa Boskanovich, which, I have something to say about some of these names and how they did stuff in there. But, they introduce her. You first Xiaoyu thinks she's a student. Then you find, it's revealed that she's actually a robot or android. And then the Mishimas show up to pretty much claim what is theirs or what they've been looking for through various other people. The movie starts with an awesome fight between Anna and Nina. Nina handles Anna. The second fight, which is the center of the movie, is between Xiaoyu and Alyssa, and then the final fight is between. Well, the final series of fights are between the Mishimas. You get to see a really, in my opinion, a really badass, evil-looking Devil Kazuya and Devil Jin. I always hated Devil Jin's McFarlane Spawn-esque looking bullshit crow face paint emo crap Devil Jin. I always hated that version. It didn't make sense to me that no matter what he's wearing, he's got chains coming out of his pockets and these big old moccasins with symbols on them and shit. It's really not straight. Sorry, it just doesn't look right. It looks like 1970s gangs, like something out of the Warriors. And for him to be as powerful and badass as he is, it didn't make sense. Especially coming from a game where when Kazuya turned into, Devil Kazuya, he was a demon. And then you have this guy who's a demon with ridiculous fashion sense. Like he borrowed Drake's clothing from Blade Trinity and said, this will intimidate people. Sorry, fangirls. Sorry, not straight fanboys, but it just, for the sake of the story and for the sake of how badass these characters are, it didn't fit. The versions in this, they fit. Whether you like them or not, they're telling you that these guys transcend humanity and, they're pretty much akin to demons. Clothing is not necessary when you're a demon. So I'm all for these new versions. And I also read that the new versions of both characters are in Tekken Hybrid with the preview of Tekken Tag 2, which means in Tekken Tag 2, we have, those costumes in there or those versions in there, probably as alternate costumes. And I'm all for it. I like when things make sense. Now, overall, the movie makes sense. But there are some things that I hated. Number one, the English dub is horrible on several levels. Well, I shouldn't say it's horrible, but there are things about it that are horrible. As far as the story goes and how it plays into what the English dub did, I have issues. For instance, this is taking place during Tekken 6. 5 or 6. It's got to be at least Tekken 5 because they make reference to Heihachi being dead and they say it was 3 years ago. So if the King of Iron Fist tournament is every 10 years, then it took place at the end of Tekken 5. So, correction. So Tekken 5, Jin, at the end of Tekken 5, Jin becomes the head of the Mishima Zaibatsu. In the movie, they show you that Kazuya is the head of the G Corporation. So those two bookends are there. They also, from the actual original plot, that Lee is an adopted Mishima. And Lee has been in every tournament up to, the 6, all the tags, everything. So at one point, Lee, Anna, Bayek, Armor King, all those people were employed by the Mishima Zaibatsu. So in this movie, a lot of these characters show up and they don't know one another. I guess the writers were trying to start from scratch, but this is the problem. This was also the problem with the live action version. This is 40 years after the original King of Iron Fist tournament? You can always tell because of how old Heihachi is. So a lot of these characters, they should have known each other, They omitted Hwoarang in any sense. They didn't even have him cameo. That was my biggest problem, is a lot of characters. My favorite characters are Paul and Law. And I like Lei too, but Paul and Law, I love the dynamic between the family, the Law family, and Paul. They're funny to me. But they're also badass, But they didn't even show them. King, they didn't even go past a poster showing King. And maybe they did, and I missed it. But I watched this a couple times and trying to look for little things, and I only saw a handful of things. Optimus Prime was in it, which was kind of funny to me. But yeah, the connections that have been established over the 20 plus years or 18 plus years that Tekken has been around, and they just ignored that shit. I mean, Anna and Lee have long-standing had gimmicks, and they've been in some of the games, it's as if they've been together. You know what I mean? Like Lee has actively gone after them. There's endings where Anna does something and Lee is in the background yup, excellent. Or, just little things. And it was that one thing, I was why would they not know each other? Or Elisa shows up in Tekken 6. And this is the problem I had with the voice actors. Every character's name, all a lot of the main characters, they mispronounced a lot of their names. And I know there's a difference between having an accent, someone corrected me because I kept saying Chinook. Okay, sorry. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a little bit of the Jersey accent. Maybe it's a little bit of the fact that I'm not Chinese. I don't know. Maybe, it's a number of things. But Chinook, and Chinook it's the same thing, Tomato, water and water. Same thing. But Gene and Jin, come on, dude. The game even has his name pronounced the right way. The Japanese version of the fucking movie has his name pronounced the right way, and every single character said his name wrong. Mokujin, it's Mokujin. And this is the same story with a devil gene. The two words aren't supposed to sound the same. Who's another one? Boskanovich. I guess that's a tomato type thing. But the game and the movie in Japanese pronounce the names the right way. Why is it that the English actors have problems doing that? It's like they're putting stress on things to make it sound more exotic than it really is. And that was getting on my fucking nerves. I was like, are you kidding me? Gene and Kazuya. That's not how even the Japanese guys pronounce it. So I don't understand why they can't just mimic that. Also, in battle, like I told you before, Japanese movie, I want to hear Japanese voices unless it was recorded in Japan in English. The stress on the battle sounds, when people are punching and they're grunting and they're making all these crazy sounds, a lot of times they sound better in Japanese. They did a good job here, but I would have liked it if they switched over and during the fights, left the grunts and the screams and the, in Japanese, and just did the voiceover for the speaking parts in English. But, here, this is me being really technical because I come from a film background. That was my emphasis for a while, film and animation. But, if you're not a film buff, I don't think you'll really have issues with that stuff. But all that said and done, the movie actually is really, it's good. It's entertaining. The end battle is kind of insane. You're like, wow, seriously? I am annoyed at some of the fan service with Jin. Jin is not the most hardcore character in the Tekken universe. Heihachi is. And it's not even a debatable, argument. Heihachi is the most raw Shoto, most raw karate dude in any video game. Because the man is almost, what is he, over 100? And he's beating the shit out of everyone. And he can still show up and be the last boss of a game and still hand you your ass. I mean, even if you know how to play Tekken, Heihachi is a worthy adversary. If you play a good player, a good fighter using Heihachi, Heihachi is a beast. I mean, this goes for a lot of characters, but Heihachi specifically, the way that you're supposed to use him, it's kind of like when you use Ken versus anyone else in Street Fighter. Ken is a pressure tactic oriented character. He has to pressure you. You have to be hungry when you use Ken, and you got to completely overpower and decimate your opponent. Jin is a tricky character, but he's strong. Kazuya is another one that overpowers people. That's the gameplay style that they want you to have. In the movie, though, both Jin and Kazuya were trying to overpower Heihachi, and Heihachi was fighting them like it was nothing. It felt like also when Heihachi finally got knocked out of the match so that Kazuya and Jin could fight, it was it was kind of like, in old Van Damme films, sometimes Van Damme would win because it was time for him to win. So, and that's just my criticism. It felt too, convenient that Jin was like, okay, now it's time for me to end this part. And he got up and he just ended this part, and Heihachi was like, okay, beat me now. And it was done for that portion. But like I said, these are little things. I thought that was a little too fan service-ish. But overall, it was a good movie. I dug the fact that they actually told a coherent story. Except for a few minor hiccups that kind of throw off the timeline. I wished that a lot more characters somehow showed up, because there were a lot of people in the movie, just not a lot of characters from Tekken, if that makes any sense. Like at the school, you saw kids and you saw adults and you saw teachers, and it was kind of like, okay, so how come I'm not seeing certain people just walking by? I know the story took place in Japan, so, a lot of characters would have to have a reason to be in Japan. Law would be in Japan, Shin wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to be. Shin was actually kind of a bitch. But, I think he serves his purpose because he was kind of a MacGuffin that was put in there to get the main villains or the main antagonists to show up and just be involved, and deal with each other. So, anyway, if you're a fan of Tekken, check this out, because it's the best Tekken-related anything next to the games that we've ever had. And it would take Namco to actually do it right, because everyone else seems not to understand it. Not the 90s anime, which was fucking horrible by any standard. Not the stupid live-action movie, which was fucking horrible by any standard. Almost any standard. The costumes weren't so bad. This was easily the best. So check it out if you get a chance. It's worth it. And I will be back shortly with some more videos. All right? Peace outside, people.